What is up, fellow nerds, and welcome back to the Dapper Snapper Gaming channel. Now, today we are going to be bringing you yet another episode of Taking Them to School. Now, you guys liked it a lot when I brought Matt G onto the channel to do this, and so I decided, you know what, we are going to bring back another guest that we did a Rambats with a while back, and that is Nayword Gaming.
Hello.
So, Nayword and I have played Pokemon together for a while, I guess. We've done things like free-for-alls and some casual battles and stuff, but we've never like built a team together. So I think this is gonna be fun. I think it's gonna be cool. So before we started the video, Nayword told me that he wanted to build a team around Noivern. Now, why do you want to build a team around Noivern?
To be honest, I've never used Noivern, and I like the idea of Flying Dragon because I do not remember any other dragon flying type.
So there are a few dragon flying types. Things like Dragonite is just one. Salamence is another. But one thing about Noivern is, one, those other two mons are not in this game. So, rip them. Also, Noivern is super, super fast at base 123 speed. It's faster than most things, period. One big thing that it does not outspeed, though, is Dragapult, so that's something we have to look out for since we are going to be playing in the OU tier. But we can deal with that with something else on the team. Now, we can go a couple of routes with Noivern, and so I want to go ahead and talk to you about those. So, the first route is something like a choice spec set so that we are hitting super hard, right? So this thing gets moves like Draco, it gets Boom Burst, it gets Air Slash. Let's see, what else does it get? Dragon Pulse, Flamethrower, Focus Blast, Hurricane. It gets a lot of really, really good coverage. U-Turn is really good for Switch Initiative. So Life Orb would be really cool to be able to switch our moves up and be able to adapt according to what Switch is in. Specs is good for just hitting harder. Life Orb if you want to be able to switch your moves around, but it's not as much of a boost. We also could run something like Heavy Duty Boots on this so that we don't take Stealth Rock damage. That's a thing. What else? We could think about running this on a rain team as well, something with Pelipper, so that we have 100% accurate hurricanes. So, but we're not required to do that. So, what do you think as far as the item? Because honestly, the item really is what will help us determine what kind of a set we're wanting to run here.
I'm thinking, where to go real fast? I'm trying to find it. Yeah, what was the one thing you said, the Life Orb?
Life Orb, yep. Life Orb, it gives us a 1.3 times boost, but you take 1/10 of your health every time you use an attacking move. But the thing is, honestly, though, the drawback of taking that damage is more than worth the boost that you get to the damage.
Okay.
But it is a 1.5 times boost rather than 1.3 with specs. We also could run Scarf so that we outspeed Dragapult, but I don't think that's really necessary.
Okay.
I think I would rather have Specs over Scarf on this, just because I do think he needs a little bit of a boost.
So let me look at the Scarf. It's real fast.
So Scarf just boosts our speed by 1.5 times, same as Specs does for special attack, but you can only use one move per time you come in.
You see that right now? Man,
what do you think?
I think we should take the risk and do the Life Orb.
Life Orb it is. All right, so he gets 2 good abilities for singles anyway. Telepathy, 1 is not released, and 2 is completely useless in singles. He gets Infiltrator and Frisk. So what Frisk does is when you switch in, you get to see your opponent's item just right off.
Okay.
Infiltrator ignores things like substitutes, reflects. It ignores screens, which are kind of prevalent right now with things like Grimmsnarl, and it also ignores things like substitutes, which are kind of common on like Dragapult and that kind of thing. There are other sub users, obviously, but so yeah, it's Each of them are both pretty useful. I think Frisk is more useful in doubles, but it's not useless in singles. Whereas Telepathy is completely useless in singles.
I was kind of feeling the same way. I think for right now, I think the infiltrator would be a better option.
Sounds good. That's what I typically run too. So for our last thing, we got to choose our moves. So I think Draco is a must. Just
Draco.
being able to hit that hard. And typically Noivern being so fast and stuff like this, it's going to be a hit and run kind of thing. So we do have to watch out for like stealth rocks and that sort of thing being able to take us out. So we'll probably want a defogger or a spinner, but we'll get to that later. We could run defog on this, but I don't think this is the mon to run defog on. So then now we need to choose some other moves. So I think it would be nice to run something like flamethrower or heat wave just to cover us for like steel types and that sort of thing. We could also run focus blast, but that is also like not super accurate, but we could run it.
I think out of those options, let's go with flamethrower from what I'm looking at.
Flamethrower it is. All right, so I think U-turn is a must in order to be able to get out of there. So we've got Draco, flamethrower, U-turn, and then last move, let's probably just run Hurricane and just kind of hope we don't miss.
All right, sounds good.
That's basically like where we're at. Just because Hurricane hits so hard, and it's another stab move, and I think it's just a really nice option. So yeah, so that's our Noivern. So what does Noivern not deal with, and what does it need help with on the team? That's basically where we're at right now. So one, we need to be able to get rid of hazards in some way, either defog or rapid spin, because he does not like rocks. He takes a quarter damage to rocks. So we're going to want that. We're going to want to watch out for Dragapult because Dragapult is faster than Noivern. We're also going to want to watch out for things like Ice Shard. So ice types with priority are going to be a problem. Or just like an ice type that can be really fast, but that's not really that much of a issue. At base 123, I don't think even an Ice Q can outspeed you, well, with a Salac Berry and if he's in his other form, but we're not going to see very many of those, so I'm not really that concerned. So we need something to deal with Dragapult, and we need some kind of a defogger. So that's kind of what we're thinking about right now. They don't necessarily have to be the same mon, but that's what we're looking for here. Now, one thing we could do is if we're wanting to run like a rain team, we could run Pelipper. And Pelipper actually does not get defog this gen, does he? I think they took it away. Yeah, they took defog away from Pelipper, so back to the drawing board on that one. Yeah, I'm so used to him having defog, but he doesn't have it anymore. Another prominent defogger is Corviknight. That's a thing that is very, very bulky. Let's see what else. Excadrill gets rapid spin. Mandibuzz is a really good defogger. Mew can obviously do literally anything you want. Togekiss gets defog, I'm pretty sure, and then we could dip down into UU for some other defoggers and spinners. Yeah, there's a lot of options here, is what I'm saying. But I think we should make sure that we have something to remove hazards. Otherwise, I don't think Noivern's going to be able to shine like at all.
I've had playing through Sword. I've had really good luck with Excadrill, so I think we could add him to see where that goes. Excadrill
is always a good option. So on a set that we're not running a sand team, which we are not, Sand Rush is going to be pretty much useless unless we're facing other sand teams, which is just a little too situational. Sand Force, same thing. You have to have Sandstorm up. So we're going to go with Mold Breaker for the ability. And what Mold Breaker does is it ignores other things' abilities. Some key things are things like Rotom having Levitate. It ignores Levitate, and so you can hit it with an Earthquake for super effective. Anything that would ignore like what you would be able to use, you just ignore it and go through it. So Mold Breakers are very good. Mold Breakers are very good ability. Now there are a couple of options that people typically run on Excadrill. At least for me, I run two different sets on Excadrill, and one is a Sash variant, and that is with Stealth Rocks of its own and Rapid Spin, and then like EQ and Iron Head. Or you could run something like a Choice Scarfed Excadrill, which is kind of unexpected. Not many people run that, but it can catch people off guard and come out of nowhere. And obviously we wouldn't carry Stealth Rocks on that set, but we would still carry Rapid Spin just in case. And that would give you one more move for coverage. So do you like either of those sets, or do you want to make up something new?
Let's go with the first one.
The first one. All right, so we're going with a Focus Sash, and we are going to be running EQ. We're going to be running Rapid Spin, Stealth Rocks, and then we're going to run Iron Head, and that'll help cover fairies that would normally that would hurt Noivern. So that's why we're going to carry Iron Head over like a rock move or something that people would typically run on this. That'll help us against things like Sylveon, which are kind of prominent right now. Okay, so we've got a spinner and a rocker at the same time, which is really valuable. That's really nice. So what do we want to be our Dragapult answer? There are a couple of things that I think of as far as like Dragapult answers. One is a Ditto coming in and copying Dragapult as Dragapult. That's always a thing. You have things like Bisharp, which are super common, but that's another Steel type right after we chose Excadrill. So that's kind of unfortunate. We've got Hydreigon is pretty cool. If you get a sub set up, that's pretty nice. What else can we do? Como, if it gets set up, it can be super useful. Mimikyu has Priority, which does a lot of damage. T-Tar does good, and it can't do much back, but we also don't want to set Sand up on this team. Unless we wanted to change Excadrill over and have Noivern help us on a Sand team, but I don't think you wanted to run a Sand team.
That's similar we got.
So what do you think? We could also run like a Scarf Gengar. That's a thing that's really common for Dragapult right now. Yeah. What do you think?
Why don't we? Yeah, let's go with the Scarf Gengar.
Scarf Gengar. Let's go. All right. So with a Scarf, we are going to outspeed. We're going to outspeed it as long as it is not also scarfed. So that is one thing to keep in mind. If it is scarfed, we do not outspeed it. Now, I do want to put the least amount of speed that we need to on this. So I'm going to pull up a calc right here. So if we're running a Choice Scarfed, where is that Choice Scarf? Right there. With max speed on this. And then we're going to run a Dragapult here. So if Dragapult is timid, it gets up to 421 speed. Meaning we can run a Modest Nature on our Gengar. And still run a little bit of bulk. Not that it's going to make a huge difference, because we're not exactly known as the bulkiest of boys here. But we could run a set, if you want to, of let's see, we could run 104 speed with a Scarf, and Modest actually speed creeps Dragapult, which is pretty cool. So we go 104, and so that puts us at 282 speed, plus the Scarf puts us up to 423, and that is 1 point faster than a Dragapult would be. So then we're going to run max special attack and the rest in HP. And so that's going to give us a little bit of survivability. It probably won't make a huge difference, to be honest, but you never know. And so that's going to be the set. It's going to be a weird set for sure. But 104 speed, max special attack, 152 HP. It just allows us to speed creep Dragapult and then have a little bit of bulk left. Now, the reason we might run max speed is to outspeed some other things that are also scarfed, just so that our scarfer is not outsped by them. But most things are also like just trying to get above Dragapult. So I think this is going to be okay. So we're definitely going to want to run Shadow Ball. Duh. We're also going to run Sludge Wave. So that's our two stab moves, right? We definitely want that. So then after that, we're looking for coverage. So there are a couple of things that we could do here. We could run something like Dark Pulse. Dark Pulse is a thing, but it's not like super good. I do think Focus Blast is a must bring. Focus Blast is really good to carry on ghost types. It just gives them almost perfect coverage. And then for the last move, we could run a couple of things. One, we could run Trick in order to give our Scarf to an opposing Mon, just to like put them in a bad position if they don't want a Scarf. We could also run. What else could we run here? We could run Psychic for fighting types. That's a thing, but it's a little less common. What do you think? What do you think about that?
I like the idea of doing the Trick to maybe confuse them a little bit.
Okay, so since we were doing Trick, we're gonna go back to the modest max speed, just so that we don't miss out on a ton by switching the Scarf over. Because if we are that weird set and then we trick our Scarf, we're going to be slower than certain things that we do not need to be slower than. So we need that speed back. So we're gonna change those EVs back.
Okay.
Okay. So let's look at what we have as far as like answers to. So we have 2 ground weaknesses, but we have an immunity. So that's pretty cool. We have 2 ice weaknesses, but no answer to that. So we may want something for ice. Things like Cloyster are running around a lot. So if we don't have an answer for Cloyster, we might just get swept. So let's think about what we want for something like a Cloyster. And honestly, something that comes to mind is a Toxapex. That's pretty bulky. We also have things like Rotom Wash. Rotom Wash is another really bulky water type that would take those hits really well. We could run a defensive set rather than an offensive set, which they're a little less common, but they still work pretty well. Yeah, so those are both a thing. Yeah. Anything else that you're thinking? What do you think?
I'm not seeing anything off the top of my head that I think would be a great counter.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I'm just gonna go with what you said first, which is the Toxapex.
Toxapex. All right, so we're gonna go with this. So Merciless is useless. We don't want that. We're gonna go with Regenerator for the ability. So basically, every time we switch out, we gain 1/3 of our health back, which is amazing. Black Sludge is going to be our item. And so basically that's leftovers, but for poison types. And if something were to trick away our Black Sludge, it'll hurt them rather than heal them. So you definitely want to run that over leftovers on a poison type. As far as our moves we want to run, I think it would be nice to have Scald. Scald is pretty standard. And besides that, there are a couple of other ways we can go with this. Now, we could run something like Toxic Spikes just to be able to wear our opponents down so that Noivern can come in and do some massive damage later in the game. We could also just run Manual Toxic. That's a thing we can do. I think we definitely want Recover. That's going to be good. I think for the last 2 moves, we could run T-Spikes and Baneful Bunker. I think those are 2 really good moves to have on this. So, yeah, and we're going to run this physically defensive. So we can take those hits really well from from Cloister. This basically just hard shuts down Cloister.
So Baneful Bunker and Toxic?
Toxic Spikes.
Spikes, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. So that's another ground weakness. So, and another poison type. So we do need to watch out for ground. Ground is kind of a big issue for our team, so we want to make sure that we can really efficiently deal with ground types. So what do we want to do about ground types? Trying to think here. I'm wondering if Rotom Wash might actually be better than Toxapex here. Yes, we lose out on our spikes, but we are Levitate, and we still catch Cloister, and it would help us deal with ground types. What do you think about that?
Okay, yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, it would make more sense, especially since we're already
I'm thinking Rotom Wash would be a little bit better. We'll run lefties on that for sure. And so in addition to that, since we're going to be bulky, we're going to run Will-O-Wisp. So that way we can burn things. We have to run Hydro Pump because we are Rotom Wash. Let's see, what else do we want to run here? Will-O-Wisp is really nice to be able to burn things and to lower their effectiveness. Let's see, what else do we want to run on this? We could run something like T-Bolt. We could run Volt Switch in order to be able to get out of there. And Volt Switch would really like make your opponent think that you're more offensive than you are. Just having that ability to pivot. So I think we're gonna do Volt Switch. And then for the last move, let's see, what do we want to do here? I think that it would be interesting to have now this could be an interesting set for sure, is run Light Screen on this set. Just run Light Screen since we have the Will-O-Wisp for physical attackers. To just have the one screen on this set, it's really odd and completely like out of left field. So if you think that's too weird, we could definitely do something different.
Yeah, I think it'd be good to run it.
So we're gonna run something really weird. Yeah, and so we're gonna run max HP for sure, because we're running the bulky set. And then let's see, what do we want to run as far as everything else? Typically for a weird set like this, I would go in and do like a bunch of calking just to make sure that my EVs are like super exact. But since we're not going to do that, we're just going to make this thing fully physically defensive with a bold nature. Yeah, and then just put 4 into special attack. So yeah, I think this will be interesting. This is definitely an odd set, and we may end up changing this later. But I kind of like this. I think it could be interesting for the team.
Not bad.
Okay, so that helps us with dealing with Cloister without it being weak to ground, because we don't want to like throw a bunch of ground weak things on our team, because otherwise we're just going to get completely obliterated. So now I think the rest of our team can be just like some really strong breakers, just to be able to run through the teams as much as we can. So as far as like sweepers go, we've got quite a few options here. We could run a Cloister of our own. That is a Shell Smasher. It's really strong. We could run Crawdaunt. Something like Swords Dance Crawdaunt is pretty cool, but it is a little slow. Actually, it's a lot slow. So it really works better on like a Sticky Web team. Dracovish is always super scary. That's always a thing. We could run Dracozolt, even though it just dropped, but that is more dragon typing. We could run Gyarados. Gyarados is a cool sweeper. What else do we have? We could run a Mew with some kind of setup on it, which could be cool. Mimikyu with Swords Dance is, of course, really neat. Obstagoon is an awesome breaker. It did a lot of work in our last go-around of this series. What else? Looking at Yu, Caparaja is pretty strong. It's just really slow. What else do we have as far as like strong breakers? Haxorus is always cool, but we are already running Noivern, which is the thing. Lucario could be a cool breaker, but that's also another weakness to ground. What do you think as far as another sweeper goes?
I'm all for Gyarados, one of my favorite Pokemon ever, so I think we should, just because then I should have him on the team.
Sure, yeah, we'll do Gyarados. All right, so Intimidate and Moxie both have a lot of usage, actually. So I'm going to let you choose. Intimidate comes in and lowers the opponent's attack by 1 stage just by switching in. Moxie boosts our attack whenever we get a kill.
I think if we can manage to pull it off to take out at least 1 or 2 of their Pokemon, it would be more useful to have the Moxie.
Mm-hmm.
The Intimidate, I feel like would only be good if we were just kind of like throw away Gyarados to the Pokemon, because it was like one of our only options.
Okay, I get you. So we're going to run Moxie. I think our best set here is going to be a Life Orb set. And we're going to run Dragon Dance. So after a Dragon Dance, we sweep a ton of things. And so basically our coverage here, since Dynamaxing is no longer a thing, it kind of makes our jobs as far as like choosing moves a little easier. So we're going to go Waterfall for our Water Stab. We're going to go Earthquake because ground typing is amazing. And we're going to go Power Whip. The reason we have Power Whip is for opposing Rotoms. Usually Rotom would be able to switch in on this, but with Power Whip, yeah, Rotom is not a counter to Gyarados anymore. So, okay, very cool. So, what else do we want on our team here? I think we need another good, a good hard hitter. I think it might be nice to have something that is a pivot, so something that has U-turn on it as well. Because we do have, we have Volt Switch, we have U-turn already. I think it's nice having that kind of momentum. It helps you to stay in front of your opponent. We could always do the Ditto play, which is just the lazy, you're getting ready to sweep me. Nah, I'm gonna sweep you instead. We could run a Grimmsnarl with screens. That's a thing. Like I said, Mew does literally anything you want. Yeah, there's a lot of options here. We could run Sticky Web here at the last second and put on like an Araquanid or a Galvantula for something like that if you wanted to, or we could just run another sweeper. What are you thinking?
I am thinking that I'm kind of just like pulling stuff out of my butt right now, but sure. I have no experience with Grimmsnarl.
Okay.
And I want to get experience with Grimmsnarl.
Sure.
So I think based off of what you said, we can go with him.
Okay, so
go from there.
So Grimmsnarl has a few options, right? Grimmsnarl is a really cool mon, first of all, and he has a few options. First of all, you could run a bulk up set. So he has Prankster, which means any non-attacking move is going to automatically go first. So you can bulk up with your a physical attacker sitting in front of you, and you can bulk up before they get to hit you, which is pretty cool.
Nice.
It helps you to set things up. He also gets really good coverage. He gets Darkest Lariat, he gets Play Rough, he gets Drain Punch. What else does he get? Gets Power Up Punch, Power Whip, Shadow Claw, Spirit Break is his signature move, Stomping Tantrum, Superpower, Throat Chop. I mean, he gets a lot of cool things. So you could run a sub bulk up set. You could run just a bulk up set with 3 offensive moves. You also could run screens, which will help to limit the amount of damage that the opponent can do against you. So yeah, there's a lot of options here. What are you thinking?
So I'm thinking since most of our team is more of the offensive or not on offensive side, I'm
Mhm.
thinking that maybe we could go for the screen side, make it have a little bit of defense on our side as well.
Okay, so we're gonna go with a light clay as our item here, and basically what light clay does is it extends screens to 8 turns rather than 5, which is really helpful.
Hmm.
And then we are going to have a reflect. We are going to have light screen so that we have both of those. Now we are then going to take light screen off of Rotom because then that's just counterintuitive. Um, so what can we do instead of that on Rotom? Trying to think what we could do here. We could run. What could we do here? We could run just another coverage move, but I'm kind of inclined to not do that. What do I want to do here on this right here? There are a lot of options. He's got some options. We could run a substitute, which could be interesting. Sub Will-O-Wisp with then switch off T-Bolt for Thunderbolt. We could just run Thunderbolt instead of Volt Switch anyway. Or Thunderbolt instead of Light Screen, just straight up. Or Shadow Ball for coverage. Shadow Ball covers us against Ghosty Boys. What do you think?
Since we've already got Volt Switch for Electric, yeah, let's go with the Shadow Ball.
Okay, just for some coverage here. Yeah, that could be interesting. So we've got Grimmsnarl, and for his last 2 moves, so Rotom is here to burn things. Grimmsnarl can be here to slow things down to make sure that Noivern can just run through. So we're gonna put T-Wave on this. Actually, I think we may want to run something a little different since we do have Rotom to burn things. Yeah, T-Wave is good for special attackers as far as slowing those down. And then for our last move, we can either run a fairy move or we can run a dark type move, just to make sure that if we get taunted, then we can still actually move. We could also run taunt for opposing things setting up instead of Thunderwave, which is also a good option. I'm kind of inclined to run taunt here, actually. Yeah, let's run taunt instead of T-Wave. And then we're going to run Sucker Punch as our last move. And we're going to go specially defensive, careful nature as far as all that goes. So this is going to be our special wall. And it's going to help to make sure that things don't set up on us with taunt. So, yeah. So this is our team. What do you think?
I'm thinking this should be a pretty good turnout.
All right, cool. So we are
Pretty
going
diverse.
to then take this on the ladder and see if we can't put in some work. But of course, that will be in tomorrow's episode. So thank you guys so much for watching this team building session with myself and Nayword Gaming. And tomorrow you will see us taking this onto the live server, and we'll just see if we can't get some wins. So anything else you want to say before we head out?
Thanks for watching.
Oh yeah, thank you. So yeah, we'll see you guys. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.